Now that we've sorted out the user interface, the next step is to populate this with some questions that we got from our API call. So everything in our program is linked, and the place where we get hold of the next question is inside our QuizBrain. At the moment, the QuizBrain, when this method next question is called, will find the current question from the list of questions that it gets from data.py, and then it will serve it up in a input. This is what used to happen, at least, when we were still making our text-based quiz app. But in this case, we actually want to be able to output that question text and then get hold of it inside our UI.py. So let's update our QuizBrain so that this question is returned as an output. I'm going to comment out this part of the code where we check the user answer because we no longer get a user answer from the input. Instead, we're going to take this question text and the question number, and we're going to serve it up as the output. So let's go ahead and return this entire string. And we can comment out this line of code. Now, inside our UI.py, we can call that method and put it onto this piece of text in the canvas. Let's create a method in here, which we'll call getNextQuestion. And this method is going to tap into the QuizBrain and call this next question. So how do we get hold of the same QuizBrain that we create in our main.py? Well, we could pass it in when we create our quiz UI as an input. So this quiz, which is created from the QuizBrain, can be passed into the quiz interface. And to catch it, all we have to do is just to add another parameter in our init, which we'll call the QuizBrain. And then we can create a property called the quiz, and we can set that equal to the QuizBrain that we receive when we initialize this new quiz interface. So now when we have our getNextQuestion being called, we're going to tap into the self.quiz, and then we're going to call the method quizNextQuestion. Now notice how as I'm typing, you don't actually get anything showing up. And the reason for this is because even though we're passing in that QuizBrain into here through the init, this file doesn't actually know what is the data type of this particular object that's being passed in. So one of the things that you can do is actually to add the data type when you create it as a parameter. So we could say that this QuizBrain thing that's going to be passed in must be of data type QuizBrain. And in order for that to work, we need to import it. So from QuizBrain, import the QuizBrain class. And now we can declare that when we initialize a new quiz interface, we must pass in a QuizBrain object, which is of the data type QuizBrain. And once we've done that and we've ensured this, then when we try to initialize this and we try to pass in something else, let's say I try to pass in the question bank, then this is going to give me an error, and you can see it says expected type QuizBrain, but instead got a list. So this also ensures that we don't make any mistakes when we initialize the quiz interface. Coming back to here and scrolling down, now at this point, once we know the data type of quiz, then we can start typing next question, and you can see it shows up all of the methods that are available to the QuizBrain object. We know that this is going to give us the output. So this is the question text. And once we get that, then we want to update our canvas. So we'll tap into our self.canvas and then call the item config method to change the item, which is our self.question text. And the thing we want to change about it is the text, and we want to set it to this Q text that we got from here. Now all that's left to do is to actually call this method, and we have to do it in our init so that when we first initialize our user interface, we don't end up seeing this some question text. Instead, we actually fetch the first question from our list of questions. But remember that everything has to go before the main loop. because all the code you write after this line is not going to be executed until that window gets destroyed. So let's put it here, and we can call self.getNextQuestion. And now if we run our code, you can see that instead of some dummy text, we're actually getting a real question here. The only problem is that it's not fully visible. One of the tricks that we can use is to get the text in a canvas to wrap by setting the text width property. Back up here where we created our question text, we can add another argument which is called width. And if we set that width to some value that is maybe a little bit less than the width of the canvas, then this question text is automatically going to go on to separate lines. I'm going to set it to 280 so that it's a little bit less than 300. So that way there's a little bit of padding either side. And now if I hit run, you can see the question now fits into the actual piece of code. There you have it. We've now created our getNextQuestion method, which is able to fetch the question text from the QuizBrain by returning the question text that it got. Now we still have our principles of object-oriented programming maintained, where each module is responsible for its own thing. So the QuizBrain is responsible for managing the quiz, getting questions, keeping track of score. And our user interface, or our quiz interface class, is responsible for putting those things onto the screen to be displayed. In the next lesson, we're going to take a closer look at Python type hints, and then afterwards, we'll figure out how to get our buttons working. So for all of that and more, I'll see you in the next lesson.